Seems legit.
Hello Legitimates, welcome back to my channel. Today I am finally making the Rowena by Knotted Thread Co. It is absolutely adorable. So I did not read the pattern at all to make this. I just looked at the pattern pieces and went, I could do that. So if it's not in order for the pattern or if I've added extra steps, meh. So what I did was I made sure that both the zippers on the top, because I did it with the zipper option, they both close in the same direction. And then it's got a magnet in the middle, and then it's got a zipper pocket here, which is a Tory pocket. I did alter that. We've got a little slip pocket up here. It's got the magnets on the side so that you can bring it in. I top stitched the sides. I still haven't checked to see if that's actually in the pattern or not, but I just really liked it. And then it's got like a nice big space in here to fit stuff. It's a good size bag. This was really fun to make. I had so much fun making this video. It makes me want to go and like cut another one right now. But anyway, if you would like to see how I make this, let's go. All right, so I have decided to start with the handles so that we can get them out of the way. So I've cut this piece quite wide, and then this is going to be an accent piece that goes over the join. So we're going to, on the back of the wider pieces, we're going to put some double-sided tape down the center. Now, I personally love 3/4 of an inch. I find that it is the perfect size. I like it so much better than a 1/2 inch. I don't actually even own 1/2 inch anymore. I am all about the 3/4. So we are going to line that all up, chop it off, and then you peel off the backing, but just a bit. Don't do it the whole way, because every time I do that, it tends to stick to the table. So you just want to do it kind of in sections, and I'm just pinching it to the center. So you grab both sides and then push down. Now this used to take me a long time. I did happen to get quicker at it. You don't have to do it next to each other. Sometimes you might stretch it. So I like to kind of come forward and then work my way backwards like so. You can also, if you've got a stubborn vinyl, you can grab some kind of a roller. This one's from Temu, and you just roll along the edges. It helps to create the crease and for the strap to sit flatter. All right, throw that in the bin. Pinch and down. Pinch and down. And we're just gonna repeat that over and over and over. Okay. Like that. Beautiful. So then we're gonna grab this one. Now, if you're new to making bags, what you might wanna do is grab a skinnier double-sided tape. This one is 1/4 inch, and just put it over the join line in the center. Now, if it's not perfectly centered, that doesn't matter, because this is going to hide it. This time I do peel off the whole lot. And then I'm just gonna take this and center it with my fingers and then tap it down. So I'm gonna kind of hold it up and then tap it down in the center like so. Like that. And so now we've got a beautiful strap. You can do them one at a time or both. It depends on your vinyl. If your vinyl is likely to start lifting up, and those tend to be the firmer vinyls, you'll just want to do one at a time. So I'm going to go to a 4 stitch length today, and then I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the accent piece on top. So we're going to stitch, back stitch, and then nice and slowly, it's not very slowly, but I don't really sew slowly. On my foot, I am lining up that inner foot edge with the edge of the vinyl. So I've done a little back stitch, and then going to lift the needle up, come to the other side, needle down, stitch forward and back, and then do the other side. Back stitch, lift the needle up, and trim off the tails. You also want to come to this end and trim off that jump stitch. Now you can see I cut one a little bit longer than the other. That's okay, we'll just trim it down. Grab some scissors and snip. Pop that bit in the bin because we like to try and clean up as we go. And so that's one done. Now, if you see here, see how it's got a little bit of a twist? What you want to do is you want to twist it in the opposite direction and then just kind of pull it just a little bit, and it should then sit perfectly straight. See that? Very easy fix. So don't worry if yours started coiling. You just roll it in the opposite direction, and giving it that little tug gets rid of any twists. I don't know why it works, it just does. So I've just gone against my own rule and ripped off the whole lot. I really don't like doing it this way. I don't know why I did it. We're just gonna bring it to the center, squish it down. To the center and down. Then we're gonna go to the other side, do the same thing. And then I'm also going to run this along the edges. If you've done it to one, you want to do it to the other one. It will just help it sit flatter. Now, this one's a plastic roller. You can also get rubber rollers. I'm pretty sure Spotlight sell the rubber version, and it's just a bit wider. You don't want to go too wide because then you have to put too much pressure to make it work. I quite like this one. It feels like a precision roller. And I just dropped that. All right, small double-sided tape down the center. This one is from Brymax. It's lovely. Chop. And I'm gonna put those away as well. And then pick off the backing, throw it in the bin. And then I'm gonna line up one end. And then just kind of pat it down in place. And it wants to sit in the center. And when it's not in the center, like right there, I went a little bit more one-sided. We just lift it up, do it again. Like so. And then, so we want to stitch the same as we did to the last one. So 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the shiny part. Back stitch at the end, lift up your needle, forward, back, back stitch, and then trim off your tails and the jump stitch at the other end. And you want to do it now just so you don't forget it. And we're grabbing a different pair of scissors this time, and we're just going to trim off that edge, sweep it into the bin. And again, this one's just got a little bit, so we're going to twist it in the opposite way. It doesn't matter if you do lots of twists, and just give a little, just a little pull, and it should fix it right up. See? Beautiful. Right, I'm going to move on to the lining. So I'm taking one lining piece. And then I'm going to take this piece that has the part cut out of it, and this piece should be upside down. So we're going to put those right sides together, and we want to stitch along there. Now, if you need to, you can add some clips so it doesn't move. I haven't put any interfacing on this. I'm wondering if maybe I should have. We're going to go back to a 2.5 stitch length, and then we're going to stitch, back stitch, and then we're going to go around that curve, and then slowly around the next curve, back stitch, and then trim off those tails. Now, if you have zigzag scissors, you should absolutely use them. If you don't, you can just grab your snips and put little kind of cuts in the curves to help it turn through nicely, like so. And then I'm going to finger press it up and then fold it over and add some more clips so it sits where I want, like this. You can also just hold it if you don't want to clip it. You can also iron it. And then I'm going to just top stitch at 1/8 of an inch because all of my top stitching is the same and then stitch, back stitch. Now, for me to get a nice repetitively even top stitch, I just use the inner foot as my guide. I'm gonna hold this straight. We're gonna go around that corner, back stitch, trim off all those tails, and then we're going to fold this so it lines up along the top like so. Really does need a good iron. I should get it right on that. So like that. But before we stitch this up the top, what we want to do is we want to fold it and stitch the sides of the pocket closed. So we're going to stitch, back stitch. I'm personally doing a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance for this. You can do whatever you want. I am not the boss of you. You can do what the pattern says. Just do whatever feels comfortable, in my opinion. All right, and so then we're going to line up this edge as well. Make it all nice and even. Trim, cut, and off. And then, if you want to, you can tack it just along this edge here and here to hold it in place. You don't have to do this step, but you might find it handy. It's only a little bit, and you want to make sure it's in the seam allowance because we don't want to see those stitches when we add the next part. That crease is really annoying me. I will be ironing it off camera in a minute, but first we are going to grab one of these. So this is the top, like so. So then we're going to fold this right sides down, and we're going to clip it together. So we want the straight edge. I'm going to put 2 clips on that end and then do 2 clips on this end to make sure that it's lined up. Like so. Then I'm just going to hold my hand on it like this and do some more clips. Like so. Then, before we do anything else, we're going to also clip the second one. So we grab the second piece of this and the second main pocket. Now I do still have to add a zipper pocket on here, but I want to be able to chain sew this. So, right sides down, ignore the pen line. Sometimes I have to redraw things to make sure that they're going to fit properly. Right, we probably don't need this many clips, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, and then we're going to come up here. We're going to stitch, back stitch. We're still on our 2.5 stitch length. We always put the softest piece of fabric on the bottom so that the feed dogs grab it. Back stitch at this end, and then we're going to grab the next one. We're going to do 2 stitches into nothingness, and then we'll start on the next one. That just gives us a bit of a gap to be able to chop them apart easily. Back stitch. Then see the little gap? Just makes it easier to snip off. I am going to tuck all of this underneath. I'm also going to trim off those tails because we don't want those. I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to top stitch at a 4 stitch length because that's what our top stitching length is today. We're going to do 2 stitches and then back 2. And I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from that edge. Like that, back stitch 2, then grab this one. And this is why we're doing this. We're saving ourselves a little bit of time, a little bit of trimming, a little bit of thread. Forward and back, top stitch. The top stitching is not just for decoration, it's also going to help this piece sit nice and flat. So I do personally think it is quite worth it. Right, and then trim. And so now this one's complete and we can set it aside, but we're going to put our pocket onto here. So for that, we need our pocket zipper overlay. You don't have to do this, it is optional. I'm doing a Tory pocket because that's what I always do, so I've cut it the right size. I've also therefore cut this the right size to go over it. And then from our pieces, we need the actual pocket piece. So when cutting this, you want the fabric right sides up and you want your Tory pocket rectangle to be on the top half, because we're going to stitch this side down upside down, and then when you look in the pocket, it will be right sides up. You could also do, if you don't like having anything reversed in your pockets, you can do the pocket style with the facings. There's not really a right and a wrong. It's just whatever you feel like. So I'm going to fold this in half and find center bottom. We're probably going to need center top later, so I may as well do it now. It's always nice to just line things up in the middle. So there's center top and center bottom. I've just done a small, tiny little clip. And then I'm going to line this up where I think looks good. So I'm going to just make it a little bit higher than the base here. Actually, no, I'm going to bring it down a bit more, because we want to be able to put our zipper overlay over the top. So if we do it too high, it's going to be kind of way up too high. So just think about that. You can also skip the overlay. If you would prefer to have the taller pocket, you can skip an overlay, but I think the overlay is going to be pretty. So, you know. I never interface my Tory pocket pieces, ever. But I also haven't interfaced a lot of this bag, and that's okay. When we get to the end, we're going to back stitch, lift up, spin 180, and then jump to the other side, line up our stitches, stitch 2, back 2, trim, trim, jump stitch, back jump stitch, and trim that tail and that one. We want to trim it all off. So now I'm going to fold it in half like this. Now the easiest way to make sure that your line in the middle is relatively straight is actually to line this up straight. So when I cut into here, it should be a fairly straight line. That random noise you can hear in the background is my cat, so please just ignore him. Trim, trim, other end, and then trim down. Now we need the iron. Okay, I got my iron. I got my mini iron actually, and I got my speaker. My microphone, it's probably not a speaker. So this should sound much better now. We're going to just iron up, and then we're going to come to this side and iron down, but make sure you don't touch the vinyl with your iron. You will damage it. Ask me how I know. Then we're going to push the pocket through, sit it down nice and flat, like so. And then we're going to iron that crease. Now, the reason I am actually ironing this is a few reasons. One, there's no interfacing, which means it's less likely to sit where it's told, which is just rude if you ask me, but whatever. But also, I want the zipper to look really nice. So the easiest way to do that, what just happened? It just turned itself off. I may have accidentally unplugged it. I don't know what's going on there, but anyway, so I'm just holding this down. Technically, this is a heat press, not an iron, but it works great for this. Okay, so that's that done. I'm going to set that aside. That's going to be hot, so just be careful. Pop that over there, not on the floor. We don't want to, you know, kick it, knock it, hurt ourselves. Perfect. So now you can see that that is sitting nice and flat. I think it looks wonderful. So we need some zipper tape. And I've got this nice big roll. Now, if you have started rolling your zipper tape like me, what you do is you actually pull it from the inside, and then we don't have any kind of dramas. So I'm going to measure the width of the pocket because that's how much zipper tape you need. And I'm going to use the back of the scissors to chop it off. And then in my glorious skull bowl, there is a zipper somewhere. So those two are for the top. We should have a third one. Hold that thought. Okay, zipper. We're going to crack the zipper just a little bit. And so it's about 2 inches. And then I'm going to pinch it with my middle finger and thumb. Put it about halfway in. Put my finger on top so it can't move. And then slide the other one in. And hopefully line up the zipper. Now I only want to pull it about 1/3 of the way in. You don't want to go too far across. Then we're going to take this. So this goes over the hole like so. So I'm going to put some double-sided tape just so it doesn't move while I'm stitching. There it is. This is going to be a very cute bag. I'm really excited about it actually. Alright, down and snip. So I'm using 1/4 inch, so you can see there is a little bit extra, which is what you want. You don't want the double-sided tape to go all the way to the edge, in my opinion, because then you're more likely to see it. It's also likely to start gathering dirt and stuff while you're using your bag. So I'm going to lay this over the hole, and I'm going to line up the top and the bottom edge so that you can't see the fabric, right? See how you can't see the fabric? That's what we're aiming for. I'm going to do a 4 stitch length because it'll be pretty. And so the idea is we're going to move the pocket fabric out of the way while we top stitch the outside edge. So I'm going to stitch it 1/8 of an inch like I always do. For top stitching, it is my favorite stitch length. You can obviously pick whatever you like. And so when we get to here, I'm going to push all of that out of the way, go around the curve. Now, if you're worried about that curve, you can, of course, add more double-sided tape. Or you could do a smaller stitch length. All right, so now all of the fabric is up this way. Straights you can always sew a little bit faster. And now that I get to here as well, I want to pull through that top stitch. And then I'm just going to flick it and tie it off at the back. So the aim is that I'm going to have like a seamless top stitching. You want to do at least 3 knots. After 3, you might just be getting a bit excessive. All right, continue on. Now curves, you always want to be careful with. And again, I'm pushing all of that fabric out of the way. And then when we get back to that so that last stitch, you want it to go into the first hole, like that, and then pull the tails, flip it over, and tie it off. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't I tie them all off at the same time? And the simple answer is because that can quite easily get knotted, and every time I've tried to do it, I manage to stitch through the first thread, and then it's really hard to like pull through and it carries on. So I just don't like doing that anymore. We do it this way. Trim off those tails as well. And hopefully you haven't stitched any of the actual pocket. And so now it looks flawless from the outside. We're going to take our zip. I always have my zips closing to the left. It's a personal preference, like that. And then we're going to line up the edge of the Tory pocket fabric here with the edge of the zip, because we made it the same size, and you want it in the middle. Now, if you think you're going to struggle with this, you can use more double-sided tape to sit it in the middle. I'm feeling fairly good about this. So off we go. It's nice straight line. So this part should be fairly easy. If you're using a metal zip, please don't stitch over it like I just did. Metal zips do not like to be stitched on. You will snap a needle. And now that I've done all of that section, I'm going to lift the presser foot, zip it shut, lay it down, and continue on. Pivot. And this last little bit. Now I can see that the zipper is not sitting where I want it. I get back to the start, and then I'm going to do one back stitch. You can also pull it through again if you wish. I'm feeling good about that. Trim off all of the tails because we don't want them. And then we're going to fold this down and only stitch the sides of your pocket. The bottom is where we're going to turn the bag through later. So I'm going to pull all of the exterior out of the way, top stitch down, back stitch, trim off the tails and throw them in the bin. Make sure you actually snip them. And then we're going to do the other side. So you want the fabric to line up at the bottom or at the open edge. Stitch, back stitch. This is quite light without interfacing, so just be aware of that if you're using a heavier machine like I am. Over the zipper, back stitch. If you don't back stitch, this will eventually come undone and you will have to hand sew it back together. Nobody wants to do that. Now, I know a lot of you worry about zippers, so you can open it halfway to feel comfortable and safe. And then that is those pieces done. Let's move on to our exterior. So this is mine. I have put a DTF onto the vinyl. I do have videos on how to do that if you've never done it before. We will actually need these pieces. So you should have 2 linings like this, 2 exteriors, and then I'm doing all of those fun little extra pockets because I thought it made the pattern very interesting. So you should have 4 of this shape, which is slightly smaller than the exterior. And again, I might actually have to stop the video. See how that's folding over? That's going to be a problem. I need to go and iron them all flat. So let me do that and then we'll come back. Okay, so they are now all ironed flat, but first I want to put on my handles. Now this, while it is really, really pretty, is not going to be able to hold the weight of a handbag without potentially breaking. So in comes my 3/4 inch binding tape. We are going to put that inside it, and that will make it strong enough to be handles without breaking anything, which I can definitely appreciate. So we're going to pop that down the center of all 4 pieces. Now this is where I have absolutely veered from the pattern a little bit because I decided that buckles would look really cool with this. So we're going to put that down the center. I'm just going to make one big long train and then chop it down like that and trim it off like so. Then if you fold it this way, you can see and easily cut them apart. Now this is just going to help hold it in the center. We're probably going to need more double-sided tape. Don't be afraid to use it. It won't hurt anyone. So peel off all the backing because it's short, and then we're going to take some of this. So again, this is the 3/4 inch because I'm making 3/4 inch straps. If you're making 1 inch straps, you use 1 inch. Logic. And then you want to try and put it as close in the middle as you can, like that. Flip it over, grab some scissors, chop it off. So it just needs to be the same size, like that. And then we're going to repeat with all of them. You could probably do another big long train, but for this, I actually don't want to do that. And there's no right or wrong. You can do it however you want. I know some of you were going to ask me, where did I get this? This actually came when I bought one of my secondhand machines, so I don't know where to get it on a nice roll like this. It is very handy though, I will give it that. In the center as best you can. Obviously my double-sided tape is not perfectly centered, but the whole point is to just kind of hold it in place. So it'll be fine. All right. Last little bit. Oh, and it fell. Which is fine. Like that. In the center. Snip. Set that aside. We might leave it later because I think we're adding some other things to it. And then on top of that, we're going to put more double-sided tape. And I know this seems like a big dramatic sandwich, but that's the price we pay for having the pretty strap connectors. If you're just using normal vinyl, you don't necessarily need all this. Normal vinyl is strong enough to hold straps. This stuff is not. So the webbing, you can put webbing or strapping or anything that's, you know, sturdy inside it to make it stay where it's told. It's my big life advice. So then we're going to peel off that backing and then just fold this over. Now it probably won't fold over perfectly together. You know what? That's okay. You just want to get to the edge of the strapping like that. And that came down to slightly more than 3/4 of an inch, but that'll be all right. Okay, so like that. Now you can do one at a time or you can do all of them. So my initial thoughts were to take these and stitch these on so that we can have cool little buckles. All right, so you want to go up without it sticking to you. The stickiness is going to help later, but we want to go up and you want to be able to do it the same amount for all of them. So I'm going to measure an inch. Actually, I'm going to do 1 1/4 inches. Why? Because it's my favorite measurement for stuff like this. 1 1/4 inches, and then we're going to go back through like that. You just kind of have to manhandle it like so. Right? So I'm going to have the buckle facing down because the strap's going to come through here. Where's the strap? Did I even make the right size straps? Probably not. But the idea was to come through here like this, punch a hole, and then come down. So that's what I want the straps to look like. I think the buckles will be cool. I also feel like I might have, I don't know, all the buckles are the same. I'm just making sure. But if you don't want to have the buckles, you can just do the rectangle. We do have both options. So I'm just going to set up both options and see which ones I like the look of better. Because I think buckles, but like I'm not 100% sold because I was all just kind of designing in my head. So again, we're going to pinch this in. Like so. And then we're going to grab one of these and decide which one we like better. So again, 1 1/4. Fold it down. Because I don't want to take away from the bag. Oh, I don't know. I actually think maybe I do just like it normal. I think that might be too much. But it's good to know. So looking at it, I think the buckles will actually be too much. So that's, you know, good to know. We're just going to take this off. Don't worry about the double-sided tape. It'll do that. Okay. So we're going to switch to these. And then we also, because I've already done center bottom and center top, we need to measure out how far we want to go. So that is to there. That one is going to go right there like so. And again, double-sided tape will hold it down and then we can stitch it. So I'm going to stitch still with a 4 stitch length. our joining, we probably should have changed stitch length at some point there, but that's all right. So we're going to go up through the hardware, needle down, pivot across, and then down, like that. And then trim off the tails, and so now we have one. I think that's enough. You could obviously do it however you like. So, grab this. 1 1/4 inches. That is just my personal rule. I feel like 1 inch isn't enough to stitch it down properly, but ultimately your call. And I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. So you can just line this up, and because it's got the double-sided tape, you don't need to draw a line. You can just stick it on like that. Beautiful. Stitch, back stitch. Pivot. Sometimes it takes 3 stitches across, sometimes it just takes 4. Depending, of course, on your stitch length. But again, this is very strong because we've put the stuff on the inside. So that is now what the front of the bag is going to look like. Bit of sparkles, bit of reflection. I love it. And then you want to fold these down so that they don't get in the way of what we're going to do up here. So now we're going to take our back. My back is quite plain. We're going to fold it in half, find center top, center bottom, because again, we're going to need it. Like so. Trim, like that. And then I need to grab some more of these, and I'm going to put the other buckles away. So hold that thought. All right, we've got these two. So again, peel the backing off. Fold it in. Like so. Grab this, sticky side up, again 1 1/4. I really feel that 1 inch doesn't go around the hardware enough because it's chunky. If you use that really skinny hardware, you should be all right with 1 inch. And it stuck to me. At least it didn't fall on the floor, I guess. Bring it in, pinch and down, pinch and down. Like so. Up and over. Stick it down, and then we're going to grab our ruler and just measure out from the bottom out, stick it down. You can stick both at the same time if you want to. Like that. And you always still want to back stitch. Now, how wide you make your straps is a little bit of a personal preference. You can alter this a little bit from the original pattern if you need to, depending on what size like DTF you put on the front and how close you want to put your straps to the DTF, or if you want some negative space around them. So again, that's beautiful and strong because of the strapping on the inside. Even though it looks fragile, it's going to be good to go. So again, we're going to flip those down just so that they're out of the way, like that. So we've got center of this, center of this. You are now going to need your little zipper ends. I have ironed these so they're lovely and flat, but we are also going to need the center. So I've got 2 here. I'm going to fold 2 at a time because why not? Or is that 3? Oh, I've got 3. That might be a bit too many to try and fold perfectly in half. There are limits to my powers. Alright, in half. We don't really care about the bottom center. You can do it if you want to, but it's a little bit irrelevant. We just definitely need the top center. Like that. Okay. And now we need 2 pieces of zipper tape. So I've still got my roll here. I'm going to pull it from the inside. And I want to measure, and by measure I mean line it up along it like this. That's how much I'm going to get. Now the pattern will have the official measurement for you. I don't give out measurements on patterns that are not my own, because it's just not the done thing. And then we're just going to cut 2 pieces that are the same. So easy enough, like that. And then we need to put our zipper pulls on. Now for these, I got really pretty zipper pulls. Whoa! And it's all on the floor. I got pretty cats with moons. I felt because there's a cat and it's a bit mystical that they match beautifully. I can't believe I just dropped all of that on the floor. Very annoying. That should be most of it. Okay, so we're going to crack the zips and pop them on. So I'm going to do it the same way I did the other one. Put it in the middle. Doesn't really matter where it goes. It's going to have to, because it's such a big chunky zipper pull, we are going to have to move it out of the way as we stitch it anyway. So should be right. Okay, I am going to go back to a 2.5 stitch length now. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to take these and fold them over the edge like this. Now you can also double fold them, or you could chop them in half and have them less chunky, because that's going to be quite chunky, especially if you're on a domestic. But if you're using fabric, then you'll want to double it over so there's no raw edge. I actually think I'm just going to cut these in half so that it's not too chunky, which means you only need half as many. I also just like a little bit of zipper tab, not a lot. So you could have it so it's a lot of zipper tab. I just like this little bit, like that. It's just enough, end it nicely. Personal preference. I cut it the original way. I have just changed my mind. Also, probably should have put the double-sided tape on it before I cut it, but what are you gonna do? So now I'm just gonna line these up. If you are using a printed fabric and it's directional, please think about that when you put your double-sided tape on. Mine's not. Like that. And then again, fold, snip, fold, snip. Okay, peel the backing off. Whoop. And then I just hold it mostly in half, shove the zipper in, stick it down like that. You can also pre-crease it like this, do a little bit of a Tory squish, then peel your backing off if that's more your style. But we are going to do all 4 ends and stick these on, and make sure you put your zipper pull on. I know I've said it twice, but we all know that this is one of those things that everybody forgets. Zipper pulls are the easiest thing to forget to put on, because in different patterns you put them on at different times. So we're going to do it now. You could also stitch one end and then put them on, but I don't want to do that either. Okay, so now we are going to add 1/8 of an inch from the inner edge. We're going to stitch them on. I'm going to grab this one, bring it round, and we're going to chain sew all 4, because why not? Chain sewing saves time and thread, therefore money. You just want to make sure you're back stitching at both ends. This is one of those things that will very easily come undone, so please don't forget your back stitching. And then you can just cut them apart and trim the tails off the start. Less tails wasted. If you had have done that 4 times, you would have like wasted that much times 4, which is a lot more thread than we need to. So we're gonna start with my front one. I like all my zips closing to the left, So actually before we do that, I'm going to take my thread zapper. This is from Et Kakai. I love this thing so much. I'm going to move my zip so it's not in the halfway point. We're going to fold the zipper in half, and then I'm going to put my finger on the button, and then I'm going to just melt a little tiny notch in the center of both sides of the zip. Now again, I haven't read the sewing pattern, so I don't know if this is how they do it. It's how I'm doing it. Right, in half. You can also mark with a pen. What I do not suggest you do is snip it unless you're going to melt it with a lighter afterwards. It's not one of those things, right? So now, grab a zip. They're both the same, so it doesn't matter. I want my zipper closing to the left when I'm looking at the front of the bag. So that means this has to go here. So I'm going to clip this on first. I'm matching up those center zips. Right, like so. And then here's kind of where you have a decision to make. Do you want both of those zippers ending the same way, like on the same side, or do you want to have them opposite, right? So if we grab this one, because that will be on this side of the bag, do you want them all closing over here, or do you want them opposite? And that's pretty much what you need to think about. I'm going to have them the same. So what we want to do is put this one on the opposite way. I know that might confuse your brain if you're new to this, but I'm going to clip it on now, and now I don't have to think about it again. It's just done. Trust the process, okay? They're going to look opposite now, but I'll show you. When we put them back to back, both the zippers are now closing over here. So that's the way the bag will sit. And that's what we want, right? Now these are all the same. If you're doing different colored pockets, like one's red and one's orange, which is a cool design idea, you obviously need to think about that. But I'm not, so we're just gonna find the center and add it to the center of everything else. And this is why we find the center of everything, guys. And clip along the edge. Like that. We can do the same to this one. Find the center. We always do the center first, work our way out, and the reason is because this panel is smaller than our main panel. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch not from the edge of the fabric, but from the edge of the zipper piece across to the other edge of the zipper piece. Now in a perfect world, I would have turned all of my clips the other way so that I could sew with the lining side down, but so long as we make sure that it's not stretching, we'll be fine. So we're now going to stitch those 3 layers together. Now I'm getting close to the zipper pull, and because it's chunky, we're going to lift up our presser foot and zip it out of the way where we've already stitched. And then when we get to the edge of the zipper, we are going, the zipper tab, sorry, we're going to back stitch. Like so. And so now, zip that back up because it's easier, but we now have one panel. I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to top stitch with a 4 stitch length from edge to edge. You want to make sure that it's all being kind of pulled down and even. If you need to remove your zipper pull again, you should do that. Back stitch just a little bit, just to lock it in, and then trim your tails. That's one done. Let's do the other one. Stitch, back stitch. Now here's the zipper pull here, so I'm going to unzip it for a bit. And then when I get back close to it, we're gonna zip it back up. And that way, it just means that you won't have like a bulging crooked line from where the zipper pull was sitting. Seems like a weird step, but I promise it's necessary if you want the bag to look amazing. So we're going to fold. See how that's curling up? We want to curl it down, which is why we're top stitching. We're top stitching this so that it's away from the zipper, but we're only stitching as far as that reaches because we still have to close the actual zipper pocket. Okay. Back stitch, just a little bit. Trim off the tails. And voila. So the next bit, a little bit easy, and then we've got some more thinking to do. So I'm going to grab a pocket, line it up in the center, clip it on. There. Work our way out. Now, the zipper pocket should line up with the other zipper pocket. Something important to think about. Ow, that got my finger. There's a very strong clip. Okay, and then we can do the same to this piece. Now, if I was sewing this not as a tutorial, I would probably just make one at a time. But it's to help your brain process what we're doing in a logical way, because sometimes I don't make bags in a logical way. Especially in my lives. My lives are very much organic in what I feel like at the time. I am trying to be more structured for this one so that I can teach you my ways. All right, so that's that. So now we get to think about the lining pieces, because this is where we're going to attach the other bits. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we're found center top. Probably don't need center bottom so much, but definitely center top. Okay, we found center bottom on this side just because of the pocket. So this is how I like to do it. When I open a bag, I like my zipper piece to be on the back wall. So this piece is going to attach to the back piece. And again, personal preference, but this is how I like to do it. So we're going to add in this piece to our clips. If you need extra clips, that's also fine. I'm going to put one extra one there just to really make sure it's holding. And so whatever's left, usually the slip pocket I put on the back of this side. It's just the way I always make bags, unless someone requests otherwise, which people that don't make bags don't think of that. So I've never had it as a request. But I always do them the same way, and so that way, consistency. So we are again going to stitch from here to there with a joining stitch length of 2.5, if you can remember to change it. I do not always remember, not gonna lie. We also need to zip the zipper out of the way for at least half. Since I had to stop anyway, may as well zip it up now. Continue on. Get to the end, back stitch. Pull it out. Since I'm on a 2.5 stitch length, I may as well do the second one. Now the reason I'm not chain stitching this is because we don't go all the way to the edge. It makes it a bit harder. And I'm trying to do things the easy way. All right, my zipper pull's at this end already, so we're good there. I'm gonna stop because I can feel the zipper pull. So now's, oh, don't do that. Don't lift your needle. I didn't do that deliberately. That was just a weird habit. You want the needle in to keep everything kind of the same and even and not have random bumpy stitches. Okay, back up to 4 because we like consistency. See where we're going with this? Now this one's going to be a bit trickier, but we're going to pull the linings open and we're again going to stitch from there down. At 1/8 of an inch because it's my happy stitch length, I guess. Move the zipper pull. Make sure that this is all sitting nicely. You can tend to feel it. It's gonna look like it sits funny. It's because it's a curve and we are trying to do the curve correctly. Okay. Oh no, I ran out of bobbin thread. Not top stitching thread, bobbin thread. It just looked like that. That's really annoying. So now I'm going to unpick that because we're not having like 4 stitches. That's ridiculous. It would look sloppy to have 4 stitches and then more back stitching and more stitches. So we're just gonna unpick them all. And by unpick, I really mean just chop them out. It'll be fine. And you wanna make sure that they've come out of the lining as well. Like that. And then I'm going to do a bobbin and come back. All right, we have a full bobbin again. So now we're going to re-top stitch that. So we're gonna just pull this one down, pop it under, and then we're gonna try our hardest to go back into the same holes that we just made. As long as you've got the same stitch length, this tends to work out pretty well. But we wanna make sure we're tugging on it all the same. And then when we get to the end, we're gonna backstitch because that's what we do. Trim those tails. Oh no, I think I'm getting the hiccups again. I hope not. Okay. So while we're on this one, we can then also take this pocket. I'm just gonna add a few clips to make my life a bit easier. But what we want to do is stitch the pocket closed. So we want to come all the way up here. We want to fold that out of the way. And we want to get the whole thing shut. Stitch, back stitch. Down we go. Whoop. Pivot. Now you can see that my stitches are getting a bit gathered. That is because this machine is not designed to stitch such skinny fabrics. To combat this, we just kind of hold it firm. Or I could have switched to the green machine. Options. You also don't want to sew slower. I don't know why, but slower seems to work as well. We want to get pretty high up there and then backstitch. Bam. The back is looking fabulous. We're going to install all of the magnets in a minute. I just want to finish top stitching first. Then we'll do magnets. So again, we want to hold both of these back. I also did just join that with the top stitching length, so that was probably not the smartest, but that's all right. Hold it back. You want to get it right on that seam because it is a bit of a curve. If you've ever made the Lola, you know that the top stitching can get a bit not tricky, but definitely less than simple. So again, there's now our front looking amazing. We're going to do the same thing where we join this pocket. Now if you don't want to do clips and you're struggling to stitch it, what you can do is you can do the bottom first. If you're struggling to get close to here, the solution is we sew from the bottom to the top, because it's always easier to sew uphill than it is to sew downhill. Alright, so we get pretty high up and then back stitch. That was probably a few too many. And then you flip it over and stitch from the bottom here all the way up without putting your hand in the way. Nobody wants that. Okay. And even if there is a smidgy tiny gap there, nothing's going to fall through it because it'll be tucked down. So like that. So this side's got, whoops, that way. Like that. And then like that. And inside is the pocket. So now we need our magnets. I have got the external pieces here. I decided not to put the all the extra interfacing because I don't want it to be too stiff. This is a fairly firm interfacing, so that was my choice. I have already put the holes in this. I did it when I was prepping, but basically you just take the pattern piece, clip it on top, and then puncture the holes. So I've got my magnets in here. We're going to separate the male and female parts. I may as well separate all three. We are about to put all three in. We're going to start with the male because I've put that side in the machine. Is it classified as a machine? I guess it is. Now, in it goes. I like to put the cap on and clip it on and then push. And then I'm gonna do, and again, I know this might not be what the pattern says, but I'm gonna do the opposite side. And there's a reason for that. So when they're sitting at opposite ends, they've got the same side on both. Again, personal preference. You don't have to do it that way. The last thing I want to do is grab this one and we need to find the center and put a magnet in there as well. So many ways you can do this. I'm going to flip it over like this and then grab the ends and just make a little crease, just a little one, like that. And grab a ruler so that I can measure up and put a magnet in right there. Now if you want to get really creative, you could lay these two together, but that feels a bit far for me. So I'm going to fold it over, join the edges, find the center, add a small crease, and by crease I just mean pinch it, and it creates enough of a crease that you can see. And then make sure it's the same on both. Where'd my center go? See, I lost it. You can also clip the center if you want to. And there. So those are the two spots I want to hold. You can use your press like hole punch, or you can take a sewing awl and stab it through the hole. If you're going to do it this way, you want to kind of wiggle it around, stretch the hole out just a little bit. Like so. So now I've got all the holes I need. I want the male pointy part on the front piece, and this one's the back piece. So not that one. This one that has the slit pocket is going to have the male part, which is here. Stab it through the hole. Put the cap on the back. Squish it down. And then whatever remains is going to be the other half. Take that out. Put that one in. I love rivet magnets. You can obviously use the foldy ones if they're more your jam. I'm obsessed with rivet magnets. I don't know why, I just am. They also hurt your fingers a lot less, but you do have to buy another set of dies. So, there's that. So I'm gonna click these two in. This one's magnetic, so it sits and then you kind of have to peel it off the magnet, or you will take the whole base with you. I will show you what that looks like. All right, so if you lift it up like that, it's strong enough that it'll take the whole thing with it. Okay, so those can now go back in the tub. We're gonna grab the other half that we haven't put a magnet on and put that in, and then I'm gonna go and find that missing cap because I dropped it. Got it here, click it on, drag it under. It'll click in place and won't be able to move, and then push. Peel it off, and that's the second side done. So now we have all of our magnets. We are very close to being done. Next up, we need to add our base. So here's my base here. I'm going to line it up. Oh, it's going to thunderstorm. Hopefully it won't be too loud and we can still hear. Last night it was crazy loud and we don't want that. So, grab here, stitch, back stitch. Over we go, and then back stitch at the other end. We're still on our joining stitch length. Then I'm going to grab this side, do the same thing. And then I will go and top stitch both pieces because I have to change the stitch length. And sometimes it's nice to just be able to do that quicker. I also probably don't need that many clips. But some days I just feel like clipping. What are you going to do? Okay. Move the bowl. We're going to go up to a 4 stitch length now, and I'm going to fold the seam allowance towards the base and then top stitch just the base piece. I'm doing 1/8 of an inch from the edge. If you don't want to have a tail, you can actually just stitch along there and then go back this way. If you want to. You don't have to. You can cut it off and do it again. Both options, very valid. But what we are trying to do is stitch down that seam so it's going to sit flatter and nicer on our bag. Trim that and that. Okay. Now we're going to add in these pieces. So I'm going to fold this in half, find the center, clip it. I feel like that's all I ever do is find the center of everything, but it is handy. You can also clip the center of this if you need to. I'm alright. I've played this game before. So we're going to add these clips really close together because curves like this always try and move and shift. So I'm going to put clips along the bottom and then I'm going to come up to this top edge and I'm going to clip my way down like this. I know I don't have all the interfacing, but I don't want it to be that stiff. I want it to be a little bit flexible because it is all vinyl. I feel like I don't need as much interfacing as the pattern, but if you were making this in fabric, I would definitely recommend all the extra pieces that they suggest putting on here. Don't skip them if it's an all fabric bag or if it's a really lightweight vinyl bag as well. There are different thicknesses to vinyl. Pretty sure this is a marine grade vinyl, so it's quite stiff and firm, which tells me it should go fabulous. Now, if you wanted to think about it, you could also think about which half of these is going to sit at the front versus the back. I'm apparently not worried. I'm doing whatever this option was. Because I've made them opposite, they will sit the same when looking at the bag, and that's enough for me. But if you care about which one's which, now's the time to think about that. I'm alright. So now, we're just going to stitch this together. Oh, and we need to go back to a joining stitch length of 2.5. I'm going to go nice and slowly around the curve. And we're going to clean up the clips as we go because the immediate space should be clear. And you want to make sure all of the lining pieces are also out of the way. Try not to stitch it in there. And we're good. Ta-da! Now let's do the other side. So we're going to do exactly the same thing that we just did with the other piece. And we're nearly done. This has been fun. the flat bit, and then we stop and come up the top. Oh, I actually think I put this the way I wanted to. Oh, I love it when my brain's clever like that. After I had already thought, oh, I wonder which way I should put the magnets, it's worked out the way I wanted. So that was a fluke, not gonna lie. Absolute fluke. But I also didn't want to check it and have to unclip everything because it's not a huge deal which way the magnets go. They're gonna join together or not anyway. So then this end, line it up. This is definitely one of the, it's not so much a complex bag, but there are a lot of things happening on it for a smaller size, which is good. I love some interest. Those excellent zipper edges. You can make this bag without those extra zipper pockets, but I like that they exist. And here comes the rain. Hopefully we don't get crazy thunderstorms, because I might have to stop if it gets too loud. Okay, stitch, back stitch. We're going slowly, mainly so we don't stitch our fingers, and because we want to get the curve right. Clean up the clips as you go. Try and have it flat under the machine and turn it. Don't be afraid to manhandle the bag. It will be fine, I promise. The main thing you want to worry about is your lining getting in the way, because like there's a lot going on at the moment. But we're nearly done. So next up, we are going to stitch the sides of the lining, I think. And again, I am a little bit guessing because I did not read the instructions, but I just feel like this is the next obvious step. Such a pretty bag. I'm also really sorry for anyone that popped into this video and went, oh, I've started it and made it the way the pattern says, because it's probably not what I've done. Although I feel like I'm pretty on point with the steps. Unless you were supposed to sew the lining first, but I'm not sure how much that would matter, to be honest. Right, so we're stitching the edge, making sure that we backstitch at both ends. Right, right. Like so, and trim off the tail at the other end, and then we're going to open this up and stitch this bit. So this join needs to be in the center side. So I should have found the center top and bottom. I didn't, such is life. We're going to do it now. It'll be fine. Grabbing yet another pair of scissors. I'm slowly taking them all off my magnet bar because the sticky tape is giving way and it's falling off. So that's something I'm going to have to fix later today. So now that we've got the center here, that center point lines up with this center point, and I'm going to open this seam out to make it sit as glorious as it can. And yes, I did just use the word glorious for a seam. Right, and then it should, I'm going to open this seam out too actually, just make it all sit flat, should be nicer. And then we get up to, and we're going to stitch up to the zipper tab that we did earlier. We also need to take off these tails. Don't skip cutting the tails, because otherwise they might start poking out the seams and then they look ugly. We don't want that. So it's going to be a really pretty bag, guys. Am I going to keep it? I don't know. I am in my fantasy era. But maybe I want something more horror. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I don't think this will last long on my website. It is beautiful. Alright, clip. And then we're going to move up. And then open that seam. And then again, we just open it so it sits flatter and is nicer There's another tail I missed. Try not to miss the tails. Alright, clip, open that seam out, line it up, clip. Okay, so now we're going to stitch there to there, and there to there. And then I reckon, actually I don't know. So I'm just going to move that. I'm going to scooch in under here. We're going to get as close to the original stitching as possible. And then stitch along. Making sure that we're not catching any other fabrics. We just want to stitch what we're stitching. Pull everything else out of the way is my life advice. And then trim those tails, of course. Clean up your clips and then flip and do the other side. So I'm going to take off the first one. We want to get as close to the zipper tabs so that it sits nicely and there's no gaps. You don't want a gap. And bring the bag around. Up, stitch, back stitch. Fabulous. And then we can turn the bag out now. And you might be like, but what about the lining? We all know I hate turning things. So we're just going to do it the easy way, right? Look at that, beautiful. Push the lining all the way out, like that, and like that, and like, yoink. Okay. We will be top stitching from A to B, just so everyone is aware. We might even do it now, because I feel like it's going to be easier. So what we want to do is we want to top stitch from here to the other bit, because we've got top stitching everywhere else and it'll just kind of join it all up. Now I'm going to add some clips to hold it nice and flat. If you are using a domestic machine, you might want to grab your flat pliers and give it a squish if it is a bit too thick. And I reckon we'll be fine. So I'm just going to hold it flat. We're going to go back up to our joining stitch length of, 4. And then where the top stitching left off, we're going to stitch, back stitch, or you can tie it off. And I just think this needs a good top stitch. And then I'll worry about the lining. Stitch, trim it off, and I promise this is just going to make it look better. See? Sits nicely. The top stitching then looks continuous. I love it. Each to their own. I assume this is in the pattern anyway, and if it's not, you should do it because it's pretty. So I'm going to push that zipper tab up, and the other side one is already up because I did it earlier. If you don't want to use clips, that's fine, but we are going to roll it in our fingers to get that seam right where we want it. I am going to use clips because clips make me happy and hold things in place so I don't have to think about it as much. But so far so good. Look at it. It's amazing. Alright, down, under we go. We're going to squish it. Now this machine is designed to do thick stuff, so this is fine on mine. The domestic might be a bit trickier. So just keep that in mind, especially if you've done like a heavy vinyl like I have. Back stitch at the end. Trim off all of the tails, not just most of them. Makes it look neater. And then come here, grab that, and then oh, look at it go. It is starting to look really, really nice. The magnet lines up in the middle because we did everything. So we're nearly done. We just need to actually sew the lining together because I left the whole base open because it's going to be easier. undo the side magnets. Then we're going to open this all the way up. We're going to put our hand into the zipper pocket and then pull through just the lining. All right, both sides. And by doing it this way, you get a nice, easy turn through. And this is not that hard. You can add some clips if you want to. Now, normally I wouldn't bother, but we're teaching, so we're going to do it. Because it won't look like it's sitting flat when I'm sewing it, but it is a straight line. It's just the way the bag's going to try and sit because we're turning it. See how it's not going to look like it's straight? It is. It's just overcrowded, I guess. All the way to the end, back stitch, and then we're going to box those corners, right? So there's the corner, so we're just going to fold it over so that the two seams touch. And again, if you want to, you can absolutely put this in place. And again, that didn't probably look like it was a straight line, but it is. It's just the way it sits. Don't stress too much about that. And then, so this one, we're going to grab those right angles, flatten them out, line up that top seam. Now, here's something you want to pay attention to. Whichever way you sewed it on this end, you want to make sure that that seam is going to face the same way at the other end. Otherwise, the bottom of the bag, you'll feel it and it'll feel a bit twisty. Nobody wants that. Back stitch. Flatten it out. Back stitch again. Trim off your tails. Shove your lining back into your zipper pocket. And then I always put it into the first knuckle of my fingers, pinch underneath, push that much under, and then top stitch that down. I know that possibly looked complex, but it saves you time. And then I'm just going to stitch it pretty close to that edge. And the sewing part of the bag is complete. I like to stand up over my bag and push the lining in. Look at it, fabulous. It's gonna magnet there. You can have these sitting out or in. We're gonna do them in. And then I just need to attach my handles. Right, look at that. And see how the zippers now both close at the same end. That is really cute. I'm wondering if I'm supposed to top stitch around there. Maybe I want to. I think I want to, guys. Just to, I don't know, make it sit more. So what I'm going to do, just top stitch this, I am going to make sure that the lining is also smooth, which is probably why we're not supposed to do it. But I'm going to do it anyway. So we want to just make sure that like the middle's lined up. That bit there is going to be very, very thick. So we're going to take these and squish it down flat. It's a two-handed job, I promise. Right, and then smooth that out. I'm like, I really hope I'm not going to wreck the bag by top stitching here, but I think it'd look cool. Okay, like that. And then this edge. And again, where the base kind of overlaps, I'm going to just squish it to make sure it sits nicely while I top stitch. Oh, broke another clip. The clips do not last forever, ladies and gentlemen. So what I'm doing basically with this hand is I'm making sure that it's smooth under here, because the inside and the outside are technically different shapes. I mean, they occupy the same space, but they're different shapes. So I want to make sure that I'm not distorting the lining by clipping it. So I'm going to clip it and then we're going to check. So see how it's nice and smooth, and I'm going to pinch it when I top stitch here, but I think it's just going to be pretty. I really hope so, or I'm totally wrecking the bag. So again, I'm going to run my hand from the top down to the bottom and then pinch, and I'm going to start there. And then work my way around because I want to capture the lining in this top stitching, I think. It'll just give extra structure. You can work your way up to down, down to up. I don't think it matters. As long as everything's feeling smooth inside, we'll be right. Like that. And then the other side, so start from the center, smooth it out, pinch it over. Part of my brain really wants to go and check to see if I'm making this up or not. Might be part of the pattern. I don't remember. I just really liked the shape of this bag and went, we can do that. Okay. Feeling good about that. So now on a 4-stitch length, oh, now that I'm folding this over, see this top bit here? I want to squish it down too. 2 hands. Back, back, forward. I'm doing an 1/8 of an inch. Around this curve as best we can. Alright, I'm getting close to this top. I want to squish this top bit too. There's a lot of seams there. My machine can handle it, so it's fine. But it's always just nice to squish it down and make it a bit easier for my machine. We do not need to over extend ourselves or the machine. Okay. I don't know about you. I really like it with the top stitch. I think it's fabulous. Domestic might not do this because of this top bit here. So if you are on a domestic and you want to do this, I would suggest just starting down maybe like 3/8 of an inch. Like just don't go all the way to the edge because that top bit is quite thick. And I'm not sure if my domestic would go through that. This one is pretty much built for it though, so we're fine. Oops. All right. Lay it down flat around the bend. Around the next bend, nice and slowly around those curves. And then I'm going to take both the clips off, squish this top bit so it's squished, freshly squished for when I stitch it. All the way to the end, back stitch and run off the edge. And then trim our tails. We don't love tails, guys. Okay, I feel really good about that. I love it. Alright, so now we just need to attach our handles. So to do that, I am going to need to change over this to my stabby hole. I use a 2mm hole stabber if anyone's interested. So this is the 2mm set. You can also get a 3, and I think you can get a 1.5 as well. But 2, usually, as a general rule, if you don't know what size to get the one in the middle. Just as a general rule. Obviously, there's probably a few exceptions that I can't currently think of to that rule. But generally speaking, the middle one should serve you well. So I'm going to grab a pen, and I'm going to grab my sparkly rivet spacing tool. Line it up on the edge, and I personally like to draw at 1/2 and then 1/7/5. flip it. We're gonna do half 175. Last one. Now when I started making bags, I would draw one, line them up, do them both at the same time. I have since learned that that is not probably your best practice. So now I do them one at a time because the one on top gets a bigger hole squished and we don't want that. So 1, 2, other end. I also like to draw it on the back so that you won't see it. 3 and 4. If you're going to put strap ends on this, what you want to do is you want to put them on and then measure ½ inch up from the edge of it. So you would put the strap end on and then line up the spacing tool against it and then drill the half and the 175. You can also always do like a double rivet. There's many, many options. This is just what I choose. Rivets. So we need 4. And we want them all the same size. Sometimes, I always order the same size rivets, always, and then sometimes they send me different sizes, but I don't fully pay attention to that when I first get them. So then this happens, and I spend all this time trying to find matching ones. I think the next packet I get, I won't tip them in until it's fully done. And I'm making sure that the caps are all the same, which they are, weirdly enough. That's what I mean. So the caps are the same size, but the actual rivets, just 1 mil out, but you can notice it. 1 mil's not a lot on a bag, but on a small rivet, it's very, very noticeable. So I want the strap to be out like this. So I'm gonna put the join on the inside where we don't see it so much, like this. I think that's going to look fabulous. So push the post through both of them and then put the cap on. And then I'm going to do the same to this side. So we're going to bring this back up. I'm going to make it so it's not twisted. We're going to put it in. We're going to stab the post through the, oops, no, we're going to drop it. We're going to stab the post through the hole, then through the second one. And then put the cap on, and then I will get my second press, which is just out of reach. And so I'm going to install one entire handle and then press them down. I like to do a pulling motion like this. I find it's much easier than pushing from the top, especially if you're in a sitting position. It means I don't have to stand up. I used to stand up and put my weight on it. Now I kind of do it like a chin up. Works wonders. So that's the back. Now let's do the front. So we're going to lift that up, and I want to go from the front to the back so that the join's on the inside. And I'm doing it this way because I don't have the strap ends. If I had strap ends, I'd have them facing out so that they're extra pretty and you can see them. We're going to smooth it out. We're going to bring it around. We're going to lift that up and then go in that way. Stab through, squish, and cap on. And sometimes you can also hang this off the edge if you find that easier to install your hardware. Personal preference and all that. And that is our bag done. So let me just move the camera so you can see. Okay, that's a bit better. So we've got this from the side. We've got both of our zippers on the same way, and then when you open it, the zipper inside also closes the same way. So all the zippers are going in the same direction. You've got a separate zipper pocket here, which is almost the whole length of the bag. It comes to like this much above the bottom. So it's a nice big deep pocket. And you've got the slip pocket here for your phone or whatever. And then you just magnet it shut. I love that. I think it looks amazing. I love the iridescence of the handles. I love that they are going to be strong enough and not break. And that's a good size bag. I really like it. So thank you all for tuning in, because I know it's been a bit of a long one. And I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye guys!